Welcome back, champion.
Yeah, I'm Mike Curley.
This is Frank Early.
This is the C team, and we're doing a little bit of a wrap up on Medieval.
Yeah, since a lot of my talking points were me, being stressed out and trying not to die.
Yeah, not the ideal way to comment on the game necessarily, but here we are.
So we just got done with a Medieval. Actually, the prequel is coming out this Friday.
Oh, okay. So we'll get to that one eventually, I'm sure.
Yep. So want to talk about the game a little bit. So first, a bit of a history lesson. Let's see. Leon Zawada and Simone Rantz, two of the creators, they've been doing mods together for a very long
Oh,
time.
and Simone, not Simon?
Simon Rantz. Hi. And the funny thing is, they did a mod for Return of the Triad, for Rise of the Triad, called Return of the Triad, which is funny because they end up working on the Rise of Triad remake.
I guess they knew it well enough. So a Medieval. So what do we think about it?
Well,
I thought it was good.
Yeah,
I'll start you off there. It looked like fun. I didn't actually play any of it.
It's one of those games where you ever just look at something and it's like, I need to try this as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah, actually, there's a couple games I've seen that. Yeah,
and we were thinking about getting a gaming PC back in 2020, and we got it just in time, right before the pandemic.
Yeah, that was the time to get it before all the shortages.
Yeah, the shortages, and just right on time to have everything canceled.
Yeah, there was that.
Yeah. And the tone, I always like this tone. It reminds me a lot of Quake. Quake is also a very good tone piece, and a Medieval through its music and scenery also matches that. It's particularly like moody, often angry game.
Yeah, there was definitely moods to a Medieval.
Yeah,
more moods than like actual plot. It was kind of like the music and the aesthetics were here's what you should be feeling right now.
Well, it's kind of like an art house movie. Like there's a narrative, but it's mostly through symbolism, not so much through characters.
Yeah, no one's sitting there and expositing to you. You're just kind of going through and seeing what has become of this place.
Yeah.
And the rot that has come through.
Right. So, and I always feel it's kind of beautiful in a way that AAA projects aren't. A lot of AAA, wants to be as realistic as possible. Details down to the very pores. Of the characters, and this this looks like a 3D game from the late '90s. So we're doing like none of that.
Yeah, it has a particular aesthetic it's going for, but it's not so much concerned with detail of every model.
Yeah, and it's bright, colorful. There's variety in what you're seeing. It's not just the same group of enemies evolving over the course of the game. You will see something different.
Yeah, each place has a distinct identity and a distinct set of enemies, kind of like Turok 2 did, where you were not fighting the same thing everywhere.
Right.
Some of them might show up here and there in multiple places.
Yeah, it does introduce new enemies each one. Though the dinosaurs are all over the place until you get to the hive.
Yeah, but it's more than a lot of first-person shooters. It will be your enemies will be variations on the theme of guy with gun.
Yeah,
or most of the game,
or demon and
or robot.
Yeah, especially the way Doom 2016 Doom Eternal does it. It's less about the enemy placement than in say Doom. It's just there's a lot of arena fights effectively. It's kind of like God of War in that respect.
Yeah, those little set pieces where you do the switch, something opens up, things come out to kill you. You got to deal with them and move on.
Yeah, and where the original Doom is like you hear the demons lurking. If there's a demon around, you will hear it. So it's a lot more, mazy with just like look around the corners. A touch more, emphasis on horror than like what the recent games do.
Yeah. Yeah, and in the recent Doom games, you are the horror.
Yeah. Yeah, you're stuck in here with me. You are the Rorschach to your inmates.
And this, I think, giving you an axe as your starting weapon is kind of sending a similar message of you're going to want to get all up in that. This is not a cover shooter.
Right.
This is you're moving, you're slicing, and I do kind of like that there is only like what 6 weapons?
7.
7. It's the axe, the staff, the sword, the spike thing,
Voltron do.
The planet shooter.
Yep.
And
the mace and what's basically the BFG.
No, I said the mace. That's the beam thing or the spike thing.
Oh no, the Voltron. But okay,
I don't know the names.
Okay. So
I'm describing.
Just to go over them: the axe, the staff, the sword, the trident.
Oh, I forgot. That's the one I was forgetting.
The plant launcher, the mace, and the BFG.
Okay. Yeah, you didn't use the trident much beyond the first couple levels, so that's why I forgot about it. You were mainly a sword guy, which does not surprise me.
Well, it's basically the shotgun of the game. You're going to be using that most of the time. It's just a very good overall weapon for most situations.
Yeah, but what I was saying is like I kind of like there's 7 weapons. Each of them kind of has a distinct use.
Yeah,
it's not like you're just getting constant. There isn't 17 pistols,
right? With like in GoldenEye.
Yeah, with like slight variations on ammo and handling. It kind of like streamlines things to where you have kind of what you need. Like you said, the axe is obviously the melee. The sword is the shotgun. You have the machine gun. You have kind of like a rifle, and you have the big guns.
Yeah, and even the Voltron. Yes, it loses its use toward the end, but I've used each weapon.
You were still using it in places.
Yeah,
except for like swarms of the little guys.
And to my mind, if you're going to have a melee weapon, it better be useful to the end, and it is. It is, that they balance it out by just making it stupidly powerful and make it sound like you're crushing someone with a leg pole.
Yeah, it is. It is a useful melee weapon, which is not always the case in a first-person shooter.
Yeah, and the thing about melee is hard to do in first person.
Distance is hard to judge.
Yeah, there are a couple examples of one as well. I'm not going to say very early, but an earlier example is the Condemned series. The way it's described is like you could really feel the hockey stick or whatever you have really break someone's jaw. And that
I've been watching some game design videos about how you make an impact.
Yeah.
And the crunch of the sound is really a big part of that.
Yeah, the sound, the animation, and how much damage you're doing. Like if you have like a big loud explosion and you take like 1 hit point, that's not really impactful. So it's like result, sound, and animation. And a more recent example that came out in 2020 is Elderborn, which is like a heavy metal magazine inspired, hack and slash Souls like thing. And that's a lot of fun. I played through that. It's a very short game. But it does, melee combat very well, especially when you compare it to like how the Elder Scrolls usually is.
I was going to ask, is it's an Elder Scrolls game? Or,
no,
it's inspired.
I wouldn't even say inspired. It's Elderborn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It sounds like someone mashed up Elder Scrolls and like Bloodborne.
No, it's basically a mix of the heavy metal movie, Conan the Barbarian, and as one reviewer described it, all those manly magazines I wasn't actually supposed to read at the age of 8.
Okay, so
yeah, a bit more
almost a pastiche of that aesthetic.
Yeah, you have sci-fi stuff, but it's mostly barbarians murdering each other.
Of course, sci-fi barbarians. That's got a long story tradition going as far back as John Carter, actually.
Yeah, come to think of it.
I was going to say He-Man, but yeah, John Carter is a little earlier.
Just a little. Well, the interesting thing about the word barbarian is, it
basically just meant foreigner.
Yeah, because the Greeks, being very mature, mocked every foreigner by going bar 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 bar.
Yeah, it was like modernly it was like the blah blahians.
Yeah, and so So, and that really comes into Conan and John Carr. They are the you know they're the bull in the china closet, and they're the foreign thing that causes trouble.
Yeah, kind of upends the status quo because everyone else is following the rules and you do not understand them. So you break things and people.
Yeah, you punch out green aliens.
You can jump really high.
Yeah, steal stuff.
Yeah.
If I were to think of a gripe, well, two of them. The bosses are kind of hit or miss. As we demonstrated, they can be very anticlimactic.
Yeah, some of them it was as easy as okay, hit the soul mode and hold down the fire key.
Yeah, but luckily it doesn't end on an anticlimactic.
Yeah, that last boss is cool. That's you keep moving. You have to exploit its weaknesses, make it weak.
Yeah, and
use the soul mode.
So yeah, it's also interesting how this and a lot of FPSs and honestly a lot of PC games, especially with Steam, have kind of returned to that demo,
The demo model where like a part of the game is released free.
Yeah, and those who only had consoles in the '90s might not remember this. I found out,
I mean, we had demo discs.
We had demo discs, but it would be like a level or two. On the PC, it would be like a third of the game. Like Doom 1 is a classic example of that.
Yeah, I miss those demo discs.
Yeah,
there are still demos, but it's like it's not. I miss the charm of getting that magazine as a disc. Oh, what's on here? Oh, Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, I don't mean to we don't mean to shake our walking stick and be like, yeah.
I mean, I have mine hanging off the wall here, but yes,
have it easy. But there is a charm to surprise.
Yeah,
you get one of those magazines, you don't know what's going to be on the demo disc, and sometimes you'll find something stupid like a really cheap like Looney Tunes game or something like that. But occasionally you'll get other stuff. I think Champions of Norath was on one of them.
Yeah,
and that was fun to discover. And I have a lot of nostalgia for two in particular. One that came with the PlayStation
when we first got it.
Yeah, the very first PlayStation, not even the PlayStation 1, the PSX, or whatever that model is technically called. And the first PS2 one we got from PlayStation Magazine.
I'm trying to was that one that had Eco on it?
Yes, it had Eco. It had that VR camera thing through
E3. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Let's see. One of the demos. I already had the game, but one of the demos was Gauntlet Dark Legacy, which is an old favorite of mine. And yeah, we would just get the demos. Let's see. I played Tenchu 3 on one, but yeah, I guess the point is especially in the digital age where we just kind of get everything.
Yeah, it's like you can get anything instantly. There is not really that same sort of preview. And I to an extent I do like there's been a couple of demos for the Switch in particular that have been set up where the demo ends after a few levels, but once you get the game you can continue that save.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, Age of Calamity did that. I think demos for Triangle Strategy and I want to say Octopath Traveler 2, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, it's like kind of a common thing, like the demo, especially like the immediate pre-release demo. Because there was also Triangle Strategy had an announcement demo, which was more for here's a taste of the early game, give us some feedback.
Yeah,
and you could actually see some of the gripes I had with that demo. They did address.
Yeah, it is good. Testing without charging us a full price. Not to make a comment on AAA games this year that apparently buggy as all.
Oh yeah, well that's every year.
Yeah, and developers get a little too comfortable. Well, one thing I've heard commented. So, Medieval was early access, and they released basically like a world at a time before you got like the full thing. And one reviewer, I watch, I think it was G-Man Lives, commented that, the worlds that he had gripes with, actually the same one I had gripes with, like, yes, they were improved, like despite his gripes, they were actually improved from what the early access one. I think it was a lot of like just rebalancing and enemy placements and all that fun jazz. Where Ion Fury never had an early access, and so never really got feedback early on. So, and I played the game since watching his review, and a lot of the gripes are handled, afterward. But the early access, without early access, they couldn't do that sooner.
Yeah, any creative endeavor needs an editor, and that is I guess an advantage to the patching, and to demos is you could get like you can get feedback on the game and improve it before release or shortly after release. Whereas, you got a PlayStation game and that was it.
Yeah.
If something didn't work, you kind of had to hope maybe they would reprint the CD and fix it. Otherwise, you just had to deal with it.
Well, the most Bethesda thing I've ever heard in my life is Daggerfall back in 1996 technically had a patch that actually let you complete the game, but it was on floppy.
Yeah, so
you couldn't download that.
Yeah. It makes it a little trickier.
But it was prophetic for Bethesda's whole catalog of mods.
Well, for Bethesda, we're talking about a company that writes its glitches into the lore, and just the official canon is the world's just like that.
Yeah,
horses are supposed to act that way.
Yeah. So I do have kind of theories I've been thinking about in regards to our hero this time. We already discussed that he was a bit of an outsider. Like he was considered a heretic by all these crazies, so on and so forth. But I don't know if we mentioned this, but before I may or may not have corrected myself on this. It wasn't an asteroid that the Arcane Expanse was on. It was a destroyed planet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, figures wizards would do something like that.
Yeah, and they decided, well, we have magic and this space works. Let's just build here. Part of me suspects our hero was from that planet.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that because there's kind of like, well, for one, they're using all the same weapons you are.
Yeah, and the character knows how to use them. So, and come to think of it, the other areas didn't have weapons quite like that. Like they had their own like sun, beams and stuff like that.
In other places they had weapons that were like part of them or part of their bodies or just looked local. It was only in the Arcane Expanse where you could clearly see, oh, that's the sword I'm using. That's the mace.
But I wonder, are those wizards also from that planet? Because you could see. I mean, we don't see anyone's faces, but you see two glowing eyes.
That's true, and the protagonist, as we see, has 4.
So maybe he like survived that destruction, and the wizard's like, "Hey, yeah, come with us."
Could be. Yeah, no one says the wizards had to have blown up their own planet.
Yeah.
Or it could be this multiple humanoid species lived on the same planet.
Yeah.
Or maybe your character is just a freak with 4 eyes.
Yeah, and the whole soul thing. I mean, again, that could be a wizard thing, but I don't think you really see anyone else doing that.
No, because then you'd be screwed.
Yeah. Oh god, those. Yeah, the Arcane Expanse. Yeah, I had a rough playthrough this.
Yeah, I think you died there more than any other place.
Yeah, it's a hard place.
Even the final level didn't really present much of a. Most of the danger there was in falling off.
Yeah, I have this thing when I anticipate something's going to be very difficult, I end up doing better.
Yeah, because you're concentrating on it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. You're kind of more on your toes, and then you slip and fall on the bit that should have been a cakewalk.
Yeah. So, kind of like thoughts on using the same rules in a different setting. Because there's often a discussion of just like, how much does a game need to do differently?
There's something to be said for a simple meal cooked well, as opposed to trying. Because the industry is filled with games that tried to innovate something that did not need to be innovated.
Yeah, like I think Dress Park Trespasser was a good example of that. They tried so much.
Yeah, that was as much the hardware and software they had was not capable of doing the things they wanted it to.
Well, and there's other examples like the Arm of Doom, that hangs in front of you, which from a design perspective just makes things a lot more complicated than they need to be.
Yeah, if they had just made it a regular first-person shooter,
Yeah,
they could have done more with the AI. They wouldn't have had to shut off physics so that you didn't hurt yourself just moving something around.
but so in that game, there's only like one functional melee weapon. The rest, they so the
Yeah, they keyed damage to how it was moving, but didn't set anything to like. It's basically it meant you kept hurting yourself if you're trying to hold any kind of melee weapon.
well, not while you're holding it, but when you have it put away. And this is another thing that they were kind of like a bit anal about. You you
Yeah,
are
the weapon
moving
had
around.
to hit box at all times, basically.
Yeah, and you have a physical model, not just a camera. You're hurtling through.
Well, the physical model was literally just the bust and the arm. There was nothing else. If you go into if you hack in a third person mode, you are just like a disembodied pair of breasts and a single arm floating through the world. Yes,
That had to have been just
Skyrim. It is not.
not that Skyrim is free from bugs, but
So in the context of a medieval, this is a simple meal done well. It doesn't really try to do anything. The most new and different thing it does is the soul mode, which is basically Spartan Rage
yeah,
transplanted into a first person game. Or like Devil Trigger, to the point where I was kind of surprised that it didn't heal you as it was going on.
yeah.
Because that's what I associate. That's one of the things I associate with that kind of super mode.
Well, I kind of see it as so the difference between Doom and Duke Nukem. Doom is like a cocktail of the interest of who's making it. Aliens, heavy metal, whatnot. And it kind of came out its own unique look.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel the same way about a medieval. Like they jokingly called Black Labyrinth Hexen 3. But as far as look and style, I never felt it looked that much like it. Like, yeah, if you ever played Hexen,
I am not. Not a big first-person shooter guy.
Definitely a bit more, moody, dark fantasy, like fall leaf, being blown into twisted trees and stuff like that. A bit more of a classic, fantasy look. Where this is kind of like a weird variant of it.
Yeah, it's got more almost like a gothic look to it. Very angular. It all kind of looks. I mean, a lot of it comes from the '90s first-person shooter aesthetic, but I think that does inform what you're looking at.
Yeah,
Everything looks a little bit alien because of that. I wonder if that's it is an aesthetic choice, but I wonder if that's a choice on the theme of you are kind of an outsider going into these worlds, so everything is going to look weird to you.
Yeah.
Even if someone who is there would think of it as normal. That's kind of the thoughts I had on the game. It looked fun.
Oh yeah.
Does it have any kind of multiplayer or?
Sadly not.
Huh.
Well, which is a shame because I would love to do co-op in this game.
Yeah, co-op would be cool.
Yeah. I imagine some of it, and probably for the same reason that there's not much of a modding community. I imagine a lot of it has to do with the weapon sprites.
I bet you there is not a model or sprite for the champion.
Probably not.
Yeah, there's no enemies that look like him.
Yeah.
And you kind of need that if you're going to do multiplayer in a first-person shooter.
Yeah, and they actually have a VR, a medieval VR. And I watched a video of it, and the weapons just don't look good.
Yeah, the sprites.
It's missing, the charm that the sprites.
Yeah, the sprites look clear and crisp. The animation is good. Yeah, I could see like a 3D model especially a 3D model in the same dimensions.
Has no lighting.
Yeah.
It looks kind of dead. I'm just like, I was thinking of trying it, but now I'm just depressed watching this. Yeah,
It's not the same.
yeah, and a lot of it's weight, and charm and just magic comes from those weapon sprites.
Yeah, because those weapons they might as well be your main character.
Yeah,
Because that's what you're looking at for 90% of the game, especially the axe.
yeah.
For the reason,
Starring the axe.
kinda.
I guess the axe does finish him off in the end.
Yeah, it's the weapon you start with, and it's the weapon you end with.
I will say, if it does get a sequel, I hope it's. So I guess there are hints that the champion might go crazy and kill everyone, but I hope that's not where it goes.
Yeah, I would see it being more. There was a big eyeball that peeked at you through the galaxy during the end credits.
Yeah,
Let's see what that's about.
yeah, and thinking about it, I'm not sure if that's actually related to the Void, if there's something like that in the Void, or if that's another entity entirely.
Well, there were plenty of eyeballs in the void. And eyeballs are a staple of Cthulhu and Lovecraftian creatures, so who knows?
Yeah.
That's just kind of a common trope. Put an eyeball where there's not supposed to be an eyeball, and it looks wrong.
Around the Seth Grokowski thing on the Beholder.
Oh yeah, just eyeballs all over the place.
Yeah, 60% eyeball, 40% mouth, or something like that.
Yeah, I have to watch that again. It's fun. All right, so that's been our thoughts on the medieval. I've been Mike Curley.
This is Frank Curley. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.